Welcome to another edition of If You Ask Jimmy. Guys, by popular demand, we have again in our studios Mr. Ade Ademola Dayo, a UK-based British Nigerian, or is it Nigerian British here? Mr. Ade is an IT professional in data and BI. He's a serial entrepreneur, an investor, a fintech specialist, and also investor in mining and agriculture. Is a pan-Africanist and an African spirituality scholar. Welcome with me, Mr. Ademola Dayo. Ade, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. That was a very good introduction, and I don't think I could do any better myself.
Yes, I don't know if you want to just add a few more words to that. Tell us a little more about yourself. Go ahead.
Um, yes, my name is Ademola Dayo. I'm originally from Ogun State, but again, born in the UK, grew up in Nigeria, and moved back to the UK in my teenage years. I'm an IT professional. I work in my expertise is in the data space, and then in banking, finance, and then telecom.
Is that what people will call too much money?
Well, we're hoping so, and we decrease so, but UK is a bit tight right now, as you know. We will touch on some of the subjects between America and UK shortly. But yeah, I hope I was in the US. If I was in the US, then I could potentially be in too much money.
What's the difference? What makes the difference? I mean, you are in Western Europe.
Yeah, US is a bigger economy, and US incentivize technologists a lot more than UK. UK is more a lot a mature economy, but they don't incentivize technologies as much as the US economy.
Okay, well, there's still room. There's room for everybody. You're welcome to join us over here. The IT market itself, the tech market. I don't know what to say about it, but with emerging realities right now, well, there's still space, but it looks like it's getting saturated, kind of, because
Yes,
everybody want to jump in IT. It looks like every other profession want to cross over. IT is the new gold. Is that the way it is over there
it
in
is
UK?
absolutely. And I saw that a long time ago that
Hmm.
you will not be able to get away from IT. Is going to run everything from medicine to well, example of that in medicine is um, creating enough artificial intelligence to be able to um, program robots and make robots able to perform minor surgeries and eventually major surgeries. And that would continue to improve and that will continue to scale in different ways. And another area that very few people talk about is in the construction industry when
Mm.
you were using 3D devices to build stuff. Imagine you want to build a house and you just take the equipment to the land. You buy your blocks, you buy your cement, you supply water,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the machine just builds everything
Wow.
automatically. And within few days, you have your whole house. So that's where the world is going.
Yeah,
It's
it's
already
happening
been
already.
modeled in China. Yes,
Yeah, it's
yes,
happening. Even Elon Musk, the Tesla group, they are doing that already. They just put these houses together. They are even shipping it by Amazon. So it's interesting. People just couple
yeah.
the houses. So how did we get us? How did I get you into talking IT this morning when this man is here to talk about the concept of Omoluabi? Well, my conversation with you can be very unpredictable. After our last chat, like that's why I put it on the flyer. That is by popular demand. People just wanted to hear you again, and there's a lot of things that you unveiled.
Yeah.
I don't want that English to remove my teeth. that you unveiled, and we know that you have so much more in you, and that's why we brought you back. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Today, it's about Omoluabi, the supremacy of virtue. And for those who know this concept deeper than us, we are from the western part of Nigeria. But this concept is not because it is so Christian or named Omoluabi. It is a global concept. It is a universal concept, and it might exist. It should, and it exists in other cultures in different measures. But in our own context, it is original. That is the essence of every true Karo Ojire, Kutu Ojire. And but it's not a Yoruba conversation. It is just to use to extrapolate from this overarching concept to see what's going on with our society, what is missing, how we can restore society, and if we can just um, understand where we're coming from and our originality, we may be able to press the reset button in this generation and future generations to come. So thank you, Mr. Ade, for joining.
Thank
You
you
want
very
to
much.
tell us, what exactly is Omoluabi?
Before I even go into that, um, this is gonna make you even smile now that before this interview, I did a little check on Google Gemini. That's the AI app supported by Google. And I just asked, what is Omoluabi? And it gave a good breakdown. So if Gemini understands what Omoluabi is,
Mm,
then from a Yoruba lens, is a global phenomenon, is something that we all understood.
mm.
But from a Yoruba man's perspective, we call it Omoluabi. And then to the globe or to the rest of the world is we could translate it to be the virtuous one or the one with integrity, respect, good conduct.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's why I use the word overarching,
Yes,
because it is hard. I mean, even for me to put the flyer out there and use the word virtue, well, looks like virtue is all encompassing. Integrity is virtue, honesty is virtue, decency is virtue, love is virtue, caring is virtue, and anything good
yes,
is relatable to virtue. Um, I know we'll be able to break it down on our Yoruba channel because we can go deeper into the word by doing the etymology or
yes.
exegesis of the word. Why do we need Omoluabi now? Is Omoluabi missing? What happened to Omoluabi?
Well, the fact that you asked the question, we know
What
it's
happened?
missing.
Is Omoluabi missing? Did he walk away?
Um, from my own perspective and my understanding, we started losing the concept of Omoluabi. I asked AI this question as well, that when
Hmm,
did we lose the Omoluabi concept in West Africa or Yoruba culture? And he gave a very concise and accurate answer. So this thing is not in, it's in plain sight. We understand what's going on. Basically, during colonial era, there are a lot of things that are truncated. Our values was truncated. The
hmm,
structure we're misaligned in a lot. We are traditional system, the imposing of Western structure that led to economical dependency. We depending
hmm,
on the West, looking up to
hmm,
the West for the
hmm,
system that has been created. Cultural shift, and then the most important one to us that we forget altogether,
hmm.
gender inequality. There was
Wow.
no such thing as this is a man role, this is a woman role in Yoruba. Obviously, we do understand that when it comes to farming and going to the farm, our fathers usually pick the right people to go with him. But if a lady deem it fit to go along with them, there's no law or there's no decree that says a woman cannot farm or a woman cannot go to. And it's quite interesting that from day one in Yoruba land, women have always been part and parcel of decision making in the society, as a community, passing a bill. That's all part and parcel of war. Yalode, Yaloja, the head of commerce, the head of women affairs. Those are the kind of things they participate in.
Are you saying the Yoruba administrative traditional administration system had, like a cabinet system?
Yeah, it had the cabinet system, and the cabinet system was actually a lot more superior than what we got, because a lot of things we got truncated the rights of women, truncated our own way of seeing women, and then it created a lot of toxic behavior between male and female, between a man and a woman, and even with the children. For example, we started using things like um, things, for example, we use things like money as a tool to actually, um, how do I put it that wouldn't be too brash? We start using things like money in our own close family setting to punish the ones that have not done exactly what we expect of them or what we ask them to do, as opposed to creating a loving and embracing the differences that we have and respecting those differences that we have.
Wow. You just, gave us a very broad overview of the way um, the traditional setting was. And, we can easily extrapolate. You see, when I see people that are very tribal in Nigeria, I was still meditating this morning during my meditation time.
Mhm.
Some people call it different names, call it
Yes, yes.
quiet time or whatever.
Mhm.
The only thing that was on my mind is that why are we so divided? Are people leveraging our division to divide us more since they see we are divided along that line? Because unity means strength, diversity is good. It means strength being shared equally and we synergize. But division means weakness. The more divided we are, the more easy it is for um, fifth columnists and people who have ulterior motives, like politicians,
Yeah,
like I don't want to say like the ones who want to control society to control the rest of us. I'm saying so because our own, like the Western Nigeria traditional beliefs, when you look at other cultures, there's a lot of similarities and there are peculiarities, not differences. And if
yeah,
you go throughout Africa, you will see commonalities in our food, in our culture, in our values. I have a question here. Um, the belief system of a people usually controls almost everything of a people. But
absolutely.
before we dig deeper into the belief system, the concept of Omoluabi is all about values. During my meditation, I was saying, why are we so divided when almost our values are common? When you see some memes, some jokes, some skits online and people are responding, maybe like if a child misbehaves, they will talk about the broom at the back of the door, the mop stick,
Mhm.
and all of those. Everybody seems to unite on that because it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not different. The way they say if your parents look at you in a certain way, it's not different from Igbo to Benin to Hausa
Mhm.
to Nupe to Kogi or to even some parts of Africa. And you wonder, so along which lines are we divided? We almost all eat pounded yam, especially in West Africa. We do the same things with cassava leaves. All our leaves, vegetables, and soups and sauces are almost the same. Where did our value go? Someone wrote a book, Who Moved My Cheese, right? Who
Oh
moved
yeah,
our who moved our values?
we were part of well, we were led to believe that our values was not as good as the foreign values. So we abandoned our values and adapted a new value system.
Led and
And
misled.
well, led and misled, yes. Yes, and we believed that the value that we were given was much better. So we abandoned ours and left it to the generation, well, great grandparents to continue to manage while we adapt the new ones. And then along the line, we found ourselves lost. And now we're lost in the wilderness of economical shift, technology shift, global village. We don't know where to go because we've lost a lot of things that could anchor us down to our own belief. And there's someone I was listening to a few days ago. He's a professor in, I think, in psychology. I don't know if you've heard of him. Gordon Peterson. He's a Canadian.
Okay. I have heard of Peterson.
Yeah, there's one thing he said. He said we share the same identity when we share the same story.
Excuse me. Ooh,
So
that's deep.
if we don't have the same story, we cannot share the same identity. We may call ourselves, we may be from the same tribe or from the same part of
Hmm.
the world, but if our story is different
Hmm.
and we don't have that anchor, the anchor's already gone, then we do whatever. It's just all out. Everybody's just all out doing whatever they want. And that's what I feel is happening to us now. That whatever anchored us in the past, whether it's all these things that we mentioned earlier, if those things are not present and our stories are different, then we're going to behave differently. I've traveled a lot. Um, I can even talk about Africa a little bit from the west to the east. And one thing that is always very interesting to me is when I meet people and they tell me I don't act like a Nigerian.
Hmm.
And I say, what is it? What does a Nigerian to you? What is a Nigerian supposed to? What does when the word Nigeria comes to
Hmm.
mind? What do you think
What comes
about?
to yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's quite interesting that a lot of people come up with different things, but the common theme is always around negativity
Hmm.
and brashness, being loud, being this, being that. Um, and I'm always perplexed because I don't even know where to start to explain that. Um, what you've experienced, what you've seen in Nollywood, because a lot of people have not actually met a lot of Nigerians. They've
Thank
just seen a
you.
lot of Nollywood.
Thank
And
you.
in Nollywood movies, we amplify a lot of things and we don't necessarily think about what we're doing and how,
Implications.
yes, how it reflect on the rest of the people and
Absolutely.
the kind of image we're projecting when we're
Hmm.
doing all these things. And the same thing with social media. A lot of people just get the moment they have a phone, they just say whatever they like, do whatever they like without thinking of the consequences.
Hmm.
Because we're not made to think about consequences anymore. We
Hmm.
just think we think it's a free world. We can do whatever we like. We cannot
Hmm.
be held accountable. We don't, and we can see by the leaders that nobody wants to be accountable,
Hmm.
especially when you've done some specific, when you've done things that you're meant to hold your hands up. We don't see those examples,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying we should actually look at politicians to lead us, but it starts from what as the Yoruba saying goes, "Ilé là ń wò ilé là ń wò ilé
Ato
là ń wò ká tó
Somaloko.
kẹ́ṣọ̀." No, no, no,
Ile
no.
lati
There's another one.
Kesho.
Ilé là ti ń kẹ́ṣọ̀ ròde.
Virtue begins at home.
At home, yes.
Charity
So
begins at home.
charity begins at home. Charity begins at home. So that is a good one, a good example for us that nowadays, do we even see fathers behaving like fathers? Do we see brothers, uncles, mothers? An example I'll give again is when people are actually raising daughters. And I've had this many times, even when I was growing up in Nigeria. I'm sure you'll have had it if you have ladies in the family. You'll have had comments like, this education you're getting is so that
Hmm.
no man will be able to to tell you what to do or that, which is on its own, that is a toxic that's a toxic thing to be overlaying into a young child. That the child should be innocent enough to say, yeah, you're getting your education so that you can contribute to the society positively and make your own mark in the society. Simple, not to counter or combat anybody. It's not a,
That one is even good. What about
yeah.
when they are told that, well, with all this education, you end up in the kitchen? Is that not even worse? All right. That leads me to the next question. You
Yeah.
talked about how we were led, and I helped you
Yes.
to add misled,
Misled.
you know, and our value system changed, was there also a shift in our belief system and what, because you talked about money and then Western civilization, all those
Yeah,
indoctrination and kind of strategic assimilation of ours into theirs and superimposing theirs on ours? Was there
absolutely.
also a shift in our belief system? And what would you say has been the effect or implications of that for us?
Um, yes, our belief system. Yes, there was a massive change in that. We we're highly spiritual people in Africa, and everywhere we go, we tend to be anchored down by our spirituality. But when religion was introduced, it changed a lot of things for us. It created more divide amongst us. Before, we had enough challenge by tribe. Now that religion was introduced, I still know that in West Africa, in Nigeria specifically, when you meet someone and you want to probably form some have some business relationship or any other kind of relationship, their faith is quite important to you. You want to
Hmm,
know their race, their tribe. You want
hmm,
to know their their faith.
hmm,
Then you decide, okay, well, this person will be. Whereas in
hmm,
other parts of the world, you just want to know more about that person. What have they done in the past? And you then start forming your own decision based on their credibility as
hmm.
opposed to their belief system. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Well, I mean, I've met a lot of people, and nobody's ever asked me what my faith is or what my belief is
Hmm.
in the East. But in the West, I tend to get that question a lot, and then that is part of our introduction. That was okay. Well, are you a Christian or a Muslim? And
Hmm.
are you this? Are you that? And that is
Landlord even ask you sometimes, and
oh
during
yeah, definitely. Oh,
private job owners.
absolutely. Because some actually say they have a fellowship in this on this date, and that's
Or marriage, parents, when you want to marry, they say which tribe
exactly.
is he from, which religion does he practice?
Absolutely. They don't ask about this person's character. They don't ask about this person's um, personality, what they bring, what they offer, and what they are about. They are more concerned about their faith and their belief, whether they align or not in that space. So that has further divided us. And now we've seen clearly that even with this faith, we've just it's just another system that's been given to us to exploit each other further. We have a way of exploiting each other in the past, whether it's business or by authority given by the council that we had before. Now we have faith, and people are now in a dire situation where they're struggling, and they've been made to believe that this faith is going to rescue them from wherever situation they're in. And government have always looked the other way when it comes to the pastor. Even the government, I mean, government always visit all these pastors anyway. So if a president of a country is visiting a pastor, how could you then say anything wrong? Who could possibly question this pastor? If the president himself is bowing down to the pastor and being prayed for by the pastor. So it puts a lot of people in a difficult predicament. You have a lot of universities in Nigeria where the congregation cannot afford to actually go to the university. The university owned by churches because, and these are the people that contributed to build the university, but they cannot afford to send their kids to the university because it's too expensive. And we continue to do things like that to each other. We continue to, and we expect, we've been made to believe, we've been brainwashed to the point where we believe something good will come and the miracle will happen. But we are the miracle. We are the miracle that are meant to change all these things. So a lot of these things I see growing up in Nigeria, and I still see today. I mean, it gets worse. I thought it was worse when I was growing up, but now it gets worse when we see things on social media about different atrocities that the churches are just committing. in the name of miracles. I don't understand. I don't understand how we can continue. And at some point, religion will implode if we don't find a way. I'm glad the current president in Nigeria is trying his best by um, putting measures in place that would help with the taxation law. And I think he's saying nobody should preach in the market. Things like that. That will curb at
That's a
least.
governor. That was a governor.
Oh, it was a governor, not a
Governor Soludo.
so that's the one in Igbo land. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, okay. So that's not across the entire nation. It's just a state. Ah, okay. It's a good start. It's a good start. And that's the beginning. Because we just get all this thing rammed down our throats. And people that actually want to speak up, they've been told, because this is a system that has been divided to enslave us. They've been told it's blasphemy to actually speak against or question things that is not clear or doesn't make sense to them. They said it's blasphemy. So people just keep quiet and continue to follow.
Wow. Is it our people's fault? Let me roll down because people are overlooking something. When you see, um, it's not all about Western education. There's also native intelligence,
Yeah,
and intelligence is intelligence. It just
of
depends
course.
on the need and the application and the fitness for purpose. Many people don't realize that we have been divided upfront and we have been configured never to function.
Of course.
Now, they do not realize that the way our country is, the complexity of our country on its own, being called a country, it's an uh, antithesis and also an anti-pattern. To
Mm-hmm,
call places like Nigeria a country is an anti-pattern. It should never
mm-hmm.
have happened. Let me roll out the countries of Europe. I know you have this information on your fingertips
Yeah,
that are just like local governments. They are not even up to local governments. They are like streets in Nigeria.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Vatican City is around 825 people living within the region that is called the Vatican City,
Yeah,
825.
yeah.
There are some streets that are more than that in Nigeria. San
Mm-hmm.
Marino is 34,000 people,
Imagine.
right? San
Mm-hmm,
Marino.
mm-hmm.
Liechtenstein, I hope I pronounced that right, 33,987 people. These are not up to two streets or three streets in Nigeria. Streets, not
Yeah,
local government.
I know.
Just one
I know.
highway.
Yeah.
All right. Even Monaco,
Mm-hmm.
38,682 people. Andorra,
Yeah.
77,142 people. Iceland, just 103 kilometers square,
Mm-hmm.
is 361,313 people. That's
Imagine.
not more than how many polling booths in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Malta is 502,653 people.
Mm.
Luxembourg is just somewhere around 619,896
Yeah.
people. Montenegro, 622,137. Estonia, somewhere around how many? These are islands anyway.
I know. I know.
Uh-huh. So, very, very small Baltic
Yeah.
country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Alimosho local government alone, Alimosho, one local government in Lagos, and Lagos
Yeah.
happens to be one of the smallest states in Nigeria. Alimosho has a population, if I'm not exaggerating, I'm not sure whether like 3 million people.
Mm. Wow.
3 million. That local government, even the whole state of Lagos itself, has over 20 million people. And the state of Lagos, with a landmass of 1 over 20 of a state like Niger State in Nigeria, Niger State is more than 10 times bigger than the size of Lagos. In fact,
Mm.
it is said that Niger State alone or Borno State alone is bigger than the whole of the eastern region of Nigeria. And the
Wow.
eastern region is over 30 something million. I'm not accurate about this, could be up to 40 or more or 50.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I know that the Yoruba region is more than 40 million. Now, I want you to pick it up from there
Mm-hmm.
because people are looking at our problems at the surface. But these are different people with different religion,
Of
different
course.
belief system, different
Yes.
values and everything. Why won't we be where we are
Where we
at?
are. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a it's a serious issue with us, and for me, I can't see where we would where we would start making that turn for the better. Because if you see that going to come from the top in technology space, approach when you're meant to tackle a problem, you come from the top down, or from the bottom up. It's going to be one or the other. You can't just say, I want to tackle a big problem and then start going around not having an approach. You have to look at the top and say, right, somehow the leaders will have to force something down the hierarchy until it gets to the citizen, or they make the citizen to be responsible enough to actually start building something up from
Take
grassroots.
ownership.
Yeah, take ownership, and then the kind of people we elect to be our counselor, that will go back to the old way of doing things, where your bali is your representative that would fight your case um, with the community leader, the baale. Then the baale would fight your case with the olorilu or the oba. Then it goes on and on and on. So it's either we go back to that approach, or we use the approach we've got now, which is the democratic approach of making the people we vote to be accountable for things that we want. Whereas we know we are corrupt, the voters are corrupt, the politicians are corrupt, because I mean, politicians spend a lot of money to be voted
Very
in.
good.
And
Very.
then, so how do you expect anything from someone you've already taken money from before you voted them?
I like where you brought us in here because this talk is not about all those our high sounding um, concepts. It's about the
Hmm.
Omoluabi. Now let's
Yeah,
pivot back because initially when you started in your early, expose, you were talking about how this our colonial masters introduced money.
yeah,
And now they said, I mean, it's misquoted though. They said money is the root of all evil, but the Bible people say it is the love of money. Now you talk about politics and how everything is monetized.
yeah.
Let's relate that to the concept of Omoluabi. How does Omoluabi see money? And then I know the Omoluabi is just a comprehensive value system.
Of
Okay.
course,
We're going to talk about money and how the belief system that entrenches Omoluabi functions and how we can benefit because we are not here to talk about the problems. We are also
hmm,
here to redirect.
of
So
course.
it's like there's one of my programs I call reset button. It's like pressing the reset button that where are we coming from, where are we, and where are we going? So talking about money, can you take us back to the value of Omoluabi and the
Yeah,
concept of money, the
if
perception of
we
Omoluabi on it,
i- on money, if we look at the concept of Omoluabi relating to money, um,
and greed,
yes,
ostentatiousness,
yeah.
lifestyle.
So being a person of integrity means we can actually interact, we
Hmm,
can have a deal or have a conversation regarding money. Perhaps I'm taking money from you as an entrepreneur,
hmm,
making certain promises, and whatever happens, I stand by those promises.
hmm.
I don't
Trust.
I don't elope with your fund. I don't start I don't change. I don't project or profess something I'm not going to be able to achieve, and then once you've given me your money, I then become something else or someone else. I maintain my good conduct. I do not start fiddling with numbers so that I can satisfy you in one way or the other. So the concept of Omoluabi is quite deep. It talks about being respectful. I think that on its own is a very massive subject. These days we don't see that often. We believe, if I'm using Yoruba as an example, is because I'm a Yoruba person, and I look at this and I think about this from that lens. So we value greeting a lot in Yoruba land. And when you say an elderly, the first thing is you greet them. It doesn't matter what culture, it doesn't matter where they come from. As soon as you spotted them to be an elderly person or older person, there's certain way you greet them. And some of my friend was actually saying, I think it was a few weeks back, we were all sitting down talking, and I wasn't there, but they were business partners. They went to represent our interest in a middle of nowhere in Kenya, and they came across someone that has been an ambassador in Nigeria in the past. So the miner said, "Oh, he will introduce us to the lady." And the moment we walked into her house and we said hello to her, greeted her, she knew she could pick out of three people that walked in which ones were Nigerians and which ones were not.
Wow.
The one person
Wow.
was not Nigerian and two people were Nigerian, and she was able to pick based on greeting
Wow.
because there's a certain way we greet. She spent time in Nigeria because she was an ambassador to Nigeria. So she could say she was able to say, "You're Nigerian, you're Nigerian, you're not, you're Kenyan." So taking us back, that's part of what we're known for. But it shouldn't stop there. Just because we greet so well or we greet respectfully, we everything else we do, we should still do respectfully.
Yeah. You talked
And
about, finish your thoughts, sir.
yeah, and that's one thing I see a lot now that people believe that greeting is everything. You greet, I mean, especially now that people are having children in diaspora, and some may decide to train their children to greet the Nigerian and the Yoruba way or not. But what I'm trying to bring out is it doesn't, it still doesn't
And there.
change much. As
Mm.
long as they understand the concept of greeting and they understand that, okay, Yoruba land, this is how people are meant to greet. This is how I'm meant to greet. But in the Western world, that doesn't really make an impact. It doesn't
Right.
change. It shouldn't change the respect you have for the elders.
Wherever.
Exactly.
Right.
But one thing we all make mistake of, what we overlook is when a child knows how to greet very well, we assume the child is very respectful in
Mhm.
every other way, whereas it's a complete wrong
Notion.
perception. Yes, yes,
Okay. Yeah. So that takes me back to this issue of money because money is just central to many things. Uh, it's Omoluabi, so it will kind of revolve around the value system. We're just using the one value system, the global word that captures the Yoruba value system as a kind of synopsis for the
yes,
entire, African community. In the past, we hear of our elders say that when they put things on the road to the farm, or they come out of their farm to the walk to the path to the farm, they put their wares there and they symbolize what the cost of that thing is. Even those days that cowrie was used for money and other means of exchange, people will understand how much that thing costs. The passerby will put the exact money there, and the owner of the money will come back to meet it. Nobody else will take it. People do not steal because
yeah,
there was instant judgment.
of
There
course,
are ways without even uniform police, without guns, without the law enforcement mega system or ecosystem of the West. The integrity was first ingrained as a value that is internalized and just second nature to everybody, and that like a norm. And
yes,
anyone that's goes out, who is a deviant to that norm, who steps out of boundary, there are societal corrective ways that there's a justice system. Some of those things are not even to be enforced by others, they are enforced by I don't know whether the space or the atmosphere or conscience
energy,
or the energy. Let's take
yeah,
that as a synopsis, as an example, and
yeah,
extrapolate from there. Now, integrity is supposed to be second nature. It is, how will I put it now? It is a culture.
yeah,
It's what everybody does.
of
And people
course,
who step out of line, there are ways to deal with that. But the belief system is also related to the belief system because they know actions have consequences. So
Yes.
can you marry those together, especially the kind of belief system that kept everybody in check and they know that actions have consequences?
There's no way we will talk about that. I'm not going to our spirituality, comparing our belief. So we're going
Last
back to
time,
our belief system.
last time I didn't let you talk,
Yes. Okay.
but the next guest after that just caught me unawares because I was avoiding any comparative religion. I'm a
Yeah.
Christian, I'm
Mhm.
a pastor, and well, I am very conservative about, you know, as much as I'm tolerant of other opinions, I also believe, I respect other world religions.
Yeah.
But this time around, I'll let you speak freely.
Okay.
I'm not convertible, and that's not your mission. But please, can you just be as raw as possible because we cannot deny our reality?
We can't.
Go
No.
back to that question of the energy and how everything was, we're able to understand that actions have consequences.
So our belief system has been truncated to the point where we hide under religion in a lot of ways. We've been sold the theory of I do wrong and I ask for forgiveness and I'm forgiven because I've shown that I would not do it again until I do it next time.
Repentance,
Yeah, repentance. That's what it's called. Until I do it next time. Is there a name for that again? Repeat offense.
restitution.
Until I do it again, and then I go back again for repentance.
There is
Whereas,
grace. We have
yeah,
grace.
yeah, there is grace. Whereas we have a spirituality that believe in positive and negative, and actions and inaction, believe in consequences for every action. Believe it goes on and on and on. The beauty of spirituality, and one thing I have to correct here is spirituality is different. Spirituality, if I have to translate it into Yoruba, I will say Isheshe, and religion, Esin. So those two are very different. Spirituality is different to religion. Spirituality is an individual way of practicing certain belief, whereas religion is an organized way. I get few people together, we're able to do it. Obviously, a lot of people have tagged spirituality and converted that to religion in their different ways, but it still doesn't change the fact that spirituality is clearly very different because it's an individual thing. What you're talking about belief system and how we're able to put in check, put a structure in place. Until now, I think we saw religion as a way, a get out of jail free card in a
Mm.
lot of ways that we know there's no consequence for our actions. So we're able to do certain things. And whereas when it comes to spirituality, and in the olden days, there was actions and there were consequences for various actions, whether it's positive or negative. And we still believe in that today. But a lot of people, 90% of Nigeria have shied away from that and have gone the other way. And people like us are now reverting back to that original belief because we believe is the superior way of living, and is the I think is the I'm trying not to be diplomatic. Is the only way to truly express yourself with no restriction. You can customize your spirituality, African spirituality, to wherever you want it to be for you, and practice that. For example, for me, I have done a lot of research, and I came from a Christian background, and I researched Buddhism. And as you could
Mm.
see, I had some Buddhist stones.
Mm.
I researched Buddhism up to a point, and I started meeting people in African spirituality, coming across a lot of, thanks to COVID, coming
Mm.
across a lot of materials on African spirituality. Then I realized everything I've learned in Buddhism is actually present in African spirituality and is richer in African spirituality. So I then started looking into African spirituality and realized that actually there's a lot here to learn, and you cannot know it. It's not something you could then get to a point and say, right, I've learned everything I need to learn. It's infinite. Knowledge in African spirituality is infinite. It goes on and on and on and on. Nobody can say they know it all because there's no single book that'll tell you all about African spirituality. But one thing I like about it is most Africans align on that. That's what makes it interesting, and that's what connects all of us together. If you look at Ifa ideology and the cosmology, and if you look at the law of Mahat in the Kemet region, the Egypt and the rest of it, is very much aligned. They actually talk about the same thing. Omoluabi as a concept means something else there, but it's the same concept.
Hmm. Wow, fantastic. Let's go back to the force or forces that makes for the balance of society. The same way people will not take what is not theirs, the same way someone, do you know, in those days they say if you go to somebody's farm
Yeah,
and you steal their crops, you pluck their fruits, you harvest their tubers of yam and everything. They had the local justice system. You know, there's a joke in the western part of Nigeria. They will say if something happens to someone, maybe someone steals something and is trying to cross the road and he gets hit by a car, they will say that it is the God of before.
iron.
The God of,
Oh, okay,
no, the God of past, apart from that God of iron thing
okay.
that got him, the God of the past that used to slack, that the God of now is justice now.
Instant.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's instant.
Yeah.
And, if there is a dispute, usually they had mechanisms that,
Yes. Yes.
there's no matter how good people are, there will always be exception to every rule.
Of
Society
course.
was stable and balanced, but we always
Yeah.
have deviants. We'll always have people that do
Of
not
course.
conform and people
Mhm.
who get tempted by whatever reason. But there's
Yeah.
always a corrective system. If
Yeah.
someone steals what doesn't belong to them, they take what they harvest other people's crops because it was an agrarian society,
Of
or they
course.
do something, maybe they steal their sheep or their goat. There are like in Igbo, they have Amadioa.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You
Yes.
know, you talk about Ogu here. They have
Yeah.
Ailala, they have
Yeah.
Shango, they
Yeah.
have different deities that
Yes.
they can make inquiries. They have what is it called now? Osoyin,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
right? Of course,
Mhm.
many of those things might have been corrupted, but in the past, you realize that there are so many mechanisms of communicating with nature.
Yes.
Okay, whatever nature in quotes now, we may not find the
Mhm.
perfect word, you know, and they are not even disputable. People can use different, energies in different ways. They can use it
Yeah.
positive or negative. But
Yeah.
the fact is that they don't have to wait from the magistrate court and get to the Supreme Court before they find out the truth.
Of course.
Some of those things might be manipulated, but generally speaking, they know that you better don't do it. Because
Yeah.
in fact, there are some justice system, okay, people that are caught in marital infidelity, for example, there
Yeah.
are some instant judgments sometimes. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
let
I've
me
seen a lot
use
of. Yeah.
you
So
you want to chip in on that?
yeah, I'll chip in on that. It's not. It's not. We don't have monopoly of that actually. Is across the entire Africa, because I've seen a lot of videos of what you've just mentioned in Uganda. Uganda actually, the people steal things and bees. They ask you, "Are you sure?" And then you say, "Well, you didn't know anything about it. Whether you stole." I think last one I saw was car battery. Someone um, opened the bonnet, took the battery, and took off with it. And the following morning, bees bees were just all over his arm, up to his elbows, and he had to go back. And he knew what it was, so he had to go back and beg for forgiveness, promise that he would repay what he stole, and
Sorry,
all of that.
sorry. I like you to talk more. Do you know in the past when we were growing up,
Yeah,
I grew up in the city anyway, so this is not
yeah,
even village. And those days, people hardly even have iron doors or bulletproof doors.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes they just have one plank that
yeah,
there's that just like something that they will just rush the plank at the back of it just to keep the door in place. because
Yeah.
of wind or weather, not for
Yes.
protection.
Yes.
You will go
Yes.
to some houses, you see calabash, you will see broom.
Yeah.
Mind you, we have heard of cases. I have heard of cases growing up as a child when someone steals, maybe an arm robber. Some people are very daring. They don't care.
Of
They may
course.
think they have the checkmate, they have
Yeah.
the
Of course.
antidote to some
Mm-hmm.
forces. When someone comes to steal in a house, the person will just be found sweeping the entire compound till daybreak.
I know.
Continue on that. Continue.
So yeah. Okay. On that note, we always make a mistake of translating all this knowledge. Well, by the way, things the West call witchcraft is knowledge. It's simply knowledge. One way or the other, we've been made to believe this kind of knowledge should not exist in our society. But our ancestors knew and understood energies, the various energies, and how to manipulate them or how to put them to work,
Mm,
which is a superior way of being one with nature,
mm,
understanding energy and using them appropriately. Obviously, we understand that we cannot manipulate energy for bad because there's always the positive and negative to everything.
mm,
So you may be asking for it to rain somewhere and then it will cause drought somewhere else, as
mm,
an example. So our fathers have a lot of knowledge in this space that if some of them have taken it with them because we've all went into religion when we should have been learning about all this. No, we should have been equipping ourselves with all this knowledge, and now we need it with all this stuff going on around. But it's only a few people that are able, that could be trusted to dispense and this kind of intellectual property, if I may call it that. And I've had some conversation with people I trust.
artificial intelligence.
Artificial, yes, yes, artificial intelligence. And it's interesting. This is actually not natural intelligence, I'll call it.
Okay. Okay.
So I think I've spoken to a few people, and now it's so, the problem is now becoming, I have a monopoly of this. Why should I be sharing it with others when I'm not going to get paid for it? This is how I make my living. So I cannot share this information. Whereas in the past, that information was widely available. But because we've moved away from it, we're now left with a handful of people that knew it, and they're holding us to ransom on how to actually get certain things. So as you said, we know that religion, well, even if you go to court, I was telling someone as a joke that if I am to go to court and I know I'm going to lie in court, if they ask me of my religion, I'll say I'm a Christian because I know I can. I'll take the Bible and say whatever they ask me to say because I know I don't believe in it and I'm there to lie anyway. But I'm not going to say, okay, give me something I believe in before I start giving my account of what happened. So I'm not going to do that. And that's exactly what people do now. Politicians will say, oh, yeah, they're Christian, but they know, okay, I will just go and repent and all these things will be forgotten.
You,
And I'll
you,
donate quarter of whatever this transaction is to the church.
recently,
Yeah.
as recent as a couple of years back, there's a guy that stole money from his employer in Sheraton Hotel and
Wow.
went to use it to buy a big generator for one of the
Wow.
biggest churches in Lagos and in Nigeria.
Wow.
Yeah, he donated a generator to Christ Embassy. But the church is not aware of the source of the money. He didn't even
Hmm.
use the money for himself, but he just wanted to give something to God and he had to steal from his employer. And the pastor did something very good. He restored that back to, he restored the value or whatever back to the employer.
Mm,
You understand?
mm. Yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
Now, you were talking about if you go to court, you rather swear by the Bible. Do you know that was it Jerry Rollins that said recently, a couple of years as well? that if
Yeah.
politicians are made, I saw that clip online,
Oh yes, yes, it
to
did.
swear an oath with the traditional gods that it's going to be a reset button for African continent.
It will
But the
be.
politicians know that there's no consequences. They will unalive people, they will maim, and
Yes,
they will
yes.
still go and pray on Friday and still go and pray on Sunday.
Mm.
They will destroy the destinies of people, and they will still go and do Thanksgiving in church or throw some kind of kind of prayer, celebration in either Islam or Christianity.
Mm.
So now, what do you see to that kind of the perception of Rawlings? You know, he has been a leader, and he was a very exacting leader at that, very bold, and he did a lot of stuff courageously,
Yeah.
for good or for bad.
He,
How do you see that? And as well,
mhm.
the how do you marry that with the belief system of the people that are governing? Because they do not even do good. Don't forget that we are talking about Omoluabi. It's
Yeah,
like, is Omoluabi such is it naturally occurring, or apart from the goodness, the preponderance of good
yeah.
natural to us,
Mhm.
that there are checks and balances in the system that exposes people who do evil and punishes evil doing,
Mm. Mm.
and
I
marry
think
that with the two religions of our slave masters that have now become our acquired
wow.
and dominant religions.
Yeah, I think being an Omoluabi is internalized. It's an internal it should have been instilled in us over the course of growing up, not something we acquire when we
Mm,
become an adult and we start going around. The society is, as we know it now, is complete different. The landscape is completely different to us growing up when there was still a little bit of fear one way or the other. Rolling is absolutely spot on. If we're meant to swear by what we know is effective, has been keeping us in check, a lot of things we find today will not be there in the society. We will not have a lot of things we have now. And the fact that we're still going down the democratic route, and when people say certain things, you accuse me, I accuse you, we go to court, I have money, you don't have enough money, or you have money, I don't have enough money, you're clearly going to win when we go to court. The only area you see this play out when politicians start running back to spirituality is when such things happen. When I have money to go to court, you don't have enough, you then start looking for a way to support yourself spiritually because you haven't got the resources to go down the judicial system. So Rollins is spot on. The politicians know the truth. They actually use there are some avenues they go down to support their biddings one way or the other. So we know they understand and they appreciate this still exists. Those energies that they can tap into is still there, and they do that when they want to. And we're just all in a situation where there's a certain image we project, and then in the background, that is what we do is completely opposite of what we project, which is the opposite of what Omoluabi is about. Is being that one person that could be reliable, dependable, and
trustworthy,
trustworthy, someone that can act with integrity. We
integrity.
don't have any of that anymore. The
Right.
politician will say one thing, they mean something else. I mean, you yourself have said a few things about the senators, how they've acted in this Natasha's case. They mean one thing, but what they're saying to the press is something else. The
Right.
ulterior motive is completely different to what they're sharing to us,
Absolutely.
and you don't know the truth. You can't. You're reading newspapers, you're reading things online. You don't know what they mean because these people will say something just for the public so that you can take and run away with it. Whereas what the issue is, you're not going to find out because they're not going to tell you. They're not going to share
Right.
that with the public.
I find something interesting here. What Rollins was talking about is very interesting, because all these energies, all these powers, all this traditional belief system, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
they are available across cultures. It's not in
Yeah.
Nigeria, for example, it's in Ghana.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you go to East Africa, they have their own spirituality.
Of course.
Every person everywhere have some form of spirituality original to them.
Of course.
Now we have a superimposition of the Western and the Arabic religion. You
Mm.
understand?
Yeah.
Because Christianity started, well, how will I put it now? A lot of people believe a lot of things in the Bible have actually happened in Africa and all of those things. But let's say it's in the Middle Eastern area
Yeah.
because of the
Mm-hmm.
location of Israel, because it is an offshoot of Judaism.
Yeah.
Now, if all these spiritualities exist, now coming back home, like you said, some people feel like, okay, why should I share this knowledge? Because he said it's a kind of knowledge. Why should I share this knowledge with others and all those things? They monopolize it, and then
Mm-hmm.
people don't trust because in the past and in the recent past, when I say recent past, maybe 50, 100 years, maybe not the days of our great ancestors,
Yeah.
because when you look at people who hold these native power, these traditional powers that are native, that are indigenous to us,
Yeah.
they are very few and far between,
Between.
and not too many of them until recently have the education. Even the people who have the education, they were not comfortable identifying with traditional religion until
Yeah.
recently, because we are either born a Christian or a Muslim. In
Yeah.
school, there is no third option like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, the integrity quotient of these people is not queryable, but just, I mean, they could be relied upon to be sincere. You wouldn't
Yeah.
see them living in big houses. Sometimes they live in very funny, tattered
Mm-hmm.
environment,
Yeah.
because most times they don't divine or do or help for material gains.
Of course.
Now,
Yes.
all of those things have changed. Now, a lot of people do not feel comfortable. Number one, the traditional religion has been demarketed by
Mm-hmm.
Christianity. Everything
Of
Christianity and
course.
Islam, for them to have that
Mm-hmm.
acceptance, they have to demarket and vilify and
Yes.
demonize
Yes.
our our indigenous,
Of course.
originality. They have to
Yes.
make sure that's why, like black and white thing.
Yeah.
Black is bad, white is
Mm-hmm.
good. And then the original people who have the integrity and sincerity of these beliefs, it wasn't commerce to them. It was just a belief
Yeah.
system. They
Of
don't
course.
monetize it.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that some people, they will, from history, will hear they will help them. People will make pledges and not come back to fulfill it. And maybe they started getting wiser too and
Of
started
course.
adding the money factor to it.
Yeah.
I've said all of that to say that this thing exists everywhere,
Yeah.
but right now people are returning it to you said Isheshe is different from, you use another word, Esin.
Essence. Yeah. Yeah.
Where are
Yeah.
we right now? Because there's a kind of renaissance. You have told us a little of your journey. Can you
Mm-hmm.
marry that to where what we get a lot out there? People who are now boldly and confidently aligning with their original beliefs, and you being a Christian, a former Christian. Are you an ex-Christian?
I don't even know what I've
You
just
will call yourself.
reverted. I'm
Okay,
I've
you don't have
reverted
a
to
label.
African
You don't have a
spirituality.
label. You
Yeah.
being born a Christian, you can trace your journey. But I see those Islam people,
Yeah.
the Islamic people, they're not taking
Yeah.
it easy at all.
No. No.
They are. So do you understand what I'm trying to get out of here? That okay, what does this spiritual neutrality offers now that we have institutionalized religion?
If it offers freedom, freedom in the sense that I don't have to wake up on a Sunday. Well, I understand it offers freedom and it offers openness in the sense that you learn and you continue to learn. I don't need to have a specific book that I learn from. And certain people, maybe before I go into that, I need to come back to the concept of African spirituality, especially in West Africa. And I know it's similar in the entire Africa. There's something called the Ori, which is your higher consciousness, your spiritual being. You need alignment with that. That is the fundamental of African spirituality. When it happens, some people I'm sure you'll have experienced this. When they sleep, they dream, and the dream come to fruition one way or the other. And people believe that when they are asleep, is their Ori actually connecting with them?
Igbos call it
Trying
chi,
Chi.
chi.
Yes,
It's
CHI. I
like the
know.
inner god,
Yes, yes. But it's
personal
not
god,
here, it's out there,
their
but
head.
you need to be aligned. So there are so many things that create a lot of misalignment. Most people in religious setting have been misaligned for a long time. And my own journey, if I quickly go into that, started by when I had a lot of questions about religion in terms of hell and heaven and hell, and why do we have to be rewarded? Why are we not being rewarded now? Why do we have to wait until and nobody's ever come
Are you
back
sure
and
you are
tell
still
us?
not going to hellfire, Ade?
Me, I don't. As long as I'm a Omoluabi on
Eh,
earth, whatever happens, I don't. It doesn't matter.
sorry, I'm just kidding you though.
It doesn't matter,
I'm
and
not
that's the
judging you.
way. No, but that's the way everybody should live. If you do well here, not because I want a reward anywhere else, just do your best here. I'm not gonna do you a favor because I want something else in return. I just want to do that favor because I want to, because that's my nature. That's the nature of Omoluabi in me. To actually do that favor when you need me to do it that favor. That's it. End of story. So the moment we start, we're being driven by you do this now, you get something later. Imagine bribing your child. It's a form of bribery. That okay, look, if you go and clean your room, come back and you get biscuits. Obviously, when you say go and clean your room and you're not going to get anything, it's going to be a bit of a difficult task to
Reward
achieve.
system,
Yes, that's a reward
reward,
system.
reward motivation,
Yeah, you're creating a reward system.
incentive.
Yes. So I don't want to be incentivized for anything I do. It should just be in me to do it because I know there's a positive and negative. And if I'm giving out positive and I'm actually making efforts to get positive as well, even though I know positive and negative work hand in hand, this is the things that we're not taught in religion. We keep praying that no negative should happen to me, but they work hand in hand. You just want a situation where when negative happens, you're able to manage it. It's not beyond your capacity. That's what you should be decreeing for. Not that negative should never happen because it happens anyway. That's how we should actually be documenting our proof that we pray for no negative happening, but negative always happen. So how do we know that this prayer is actually effective? The way we're praying is effective. So there's something missing in all of that, and I've been questioning a lot of that. So I during COVID, I went into Buddhism and did a lot of research. Then during COVID again, we have COVID to thank for a lot of things. Then I came across a lot of people in African spirituality, and I realized that a lot of things I've learned in Buddhism that is actually present in African spirituality. And thankfully, I've come across a lot of people that have been able to teach and share a lot of knowledge to the point now that a lot of things that was more like a stigma in the past, I don't see them as stigma anymore. Like shrines in the past, we're scared of actually going anywhere near any shrine, but there's nothing to be scared of with all these things. It's just a place where people practice or appease their energy. That's it. That's it. It's simple. It's simple as that.
Okay, so did the Western religion improve, enhance, or promote our Omoluabiism, or did they do damage to it? And where we are, where do we go from here?
That's a good question. If we truly, if
Has
we
religion
truly,
been helpful or damaging Western and Arabic religion?
I think if we truly act in the nature and in the way it's been structured, we will still be aligning with our Omoluabi um, concept, but we don't because that governance mechanism isn't there anymore. There's no such thing to say, right? For example, now I'll give an example from spirituality perspective. If you're going to do harm, the first question you should ask yourself is, have, have I ever wronged anyone? if I've ever wronged anyone, then I should accept that this is just part of life and move
So
on.
if you have
So
to finish your
because
thoughts.
because that whatever I'm planning to do, there's always going to be a blowback on me. And this is why you don't see proper babalawos getting into fights. You never see that happen. When you see pastors having fracas and all these affairs having fracas, you never see two true babalawos fighting because that mutual respect is there, and that principle is there as well. That if I've ever wronged someone, that I should never be punishing for anybody wronging me because I know where nobody's perfect. So
Okay.
that's part. Yeah.
Now, if you want to
Mhm.
talk to someone from another extraction, this will be our last question on you being from Africa and you have this concept of Omoluabi that you, if you want to preach Omoluabi or tell Omoluabi to the world as a kind of tool or concept for societal balance and equity, honesty, integrity, virtue, positive values, fairness, love, caring, everything that makes for, what we call humanity. I give you like 2 minutes to do that as we
I
round
would
off.
I would say it's I would define it to be
Sorry, is it related to religion? Can it be divorced or is it a package? And
it's not it's not related to religion, but it's related to character.
oh,
Being born of good intention, a responsible citizen with integrity, respect, good conduct, and someone of substance or someone let me look for the right way to finish that. Someone working towards contributing tangible something tangible to the society or community. I think that would be the way to describe it.
I will interrupt your thoughts again.
Yeah.
Um, does religion help us? Does it unite or divide us? Has it been helpful? Should it be sustained? Should we be retained?
I think religion has done nothing but divide us further. I've done a bit of digging into our origin as Yoruba people. Some of us came into the Yoruba area by due to trade, whereas some of us originate from Ile-Ife. Whichever the case may be, there's always been suspicion that okay, this person, we don't trust that community does not trust us. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that this community does not get to partake in XYZ that we do
Is that
within our community.
Omoluabi?
Um, suspicion
Right.
is natural, but again, we still treat each other with respect. Like the Jebu people will still treat the Oyo people with
Mutual
respect,
respect.
mutual respect in those days. But what
Right.
we've done now is we just come up with all this negativity. The Jebu people will say negative things about other people, and now that has extended across the entire Nigeria. That oh, you can't trust this tribe. That tribe says something else again about us, and
Right.
we're not showing any structure.
How do you round up? 15 seconds.
I would like to round up by saying Iwapele, which is the ultimate moral conduct.
Right.
We should be, in everything we do, we should always hold a good moral ground. We should always be of Omoluabi attribute by displaying respect for others and good conduct.
Amazing. Thank you, Mr. Ade, for obliging us again. I know this will not be our last engagement. We appreciate you for coming and sharing with us your thoughts and on the concept of Omoluabi and extrapolating it to other areas. Who cannot, viewers, this is where we end this program today. It's a continuous podcast of having other people's opinion in order for us to learn to grow and to live better in this very complex and rapidly changing world. Special thanks to our backup team, OMS Consulting. Uh, Feel free to reach out to them through this channel. They have been our backbone. Like I keep saying, I have my regular job, and my job is, I'm very passionate about my job, but I get this help from them. They get all these things together, put us in the studio, mix things together, and then manage the channel for us. And if you want such thing to happen for you, you are busy with what you are doing, but you want to add value and contribute to our community, I just want to do something in the social media or new media or digital media space, we have experts in media and communications who can help you. They are Omoluabis. They have integrity. I beat
That's
my
it.
chest for them. I vouch for them. I guarantee them. I approve them. Feel free to ask for the services of OMS Consulting. Thank you, viewers, for watching, and we see you on the next video. Thank you for coming on this show today.